So this is going to be a bit of a different initial start for this group coaching session, because we're at the start of 2025, and I wanted to run actually a bit of a planning workshop for you guys so that we can really set you up to be able to crush your 2025. And it's a time when, lots of resolutions get made, and by February, lots of resolutions are broken, right? And they're not moving forward. And so what I wanted to do was to really take you through an exercise that I find really powerful. It's an exercise that I do, and it's helped me a lot. And it's also an exercise that I'm seeing that one of my coaches actually does. And you're probably aware, I've got a couple of coaches that I draw on for different things. And it's great to see that a guy that charges $250,000 a year for his high ticket program, where he's got billionaires in that program, is doing pretty much the same thing. So that's the benefit of, you get all this downstream knowledge from some of these absolute gurus. So it's probably going to take us about 25, 30 minutes or so, and then we can open it up after that. So hopefully you've got a pen and paper handy, because I'm going to get you to write some things down. So has everyone got a pen and paper handy? Cool. All right. So guys, to set this session up, I expect that you've done a little bit of thinking around what you want to achieve in 2025, but we're going to get really clear around what that looks like in this session. And so to kick things off, what I want you to think about is, what are the goals that you want to achieve in 2025? If it was a wildly successful year, I'm not talking about I want to go to Mars this year. I'm talking about, we've got to ground it in a little bit of reality. But what would a wildly successful year look for you like, professionally and personally? So two groups, professionally and personally. Now, I know you guys individually. We've been working on your goals. You're making great progress through the work that we're doing. So taking that momentum forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of thinking music on. We're going to take 4 to 5 minutes, depending on how long it takes you. So if it was a wildly successful year, professionally and personally, what does a great 2025 look like for you? You've probably got a few things on that list now, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty good list there in front of you. All right. Now, what we want to try and do now is actually avoid a bit of the overwhelm, because if you've got so many things on that list, it's going to be really hard for you to focus on what needs to happen. But here's the thing. We know that goals fall over, New Year's resolutions fall over in about February. And it's because we've got so many things on our plate, and I'll get to that in a second. But what we want to do is we actually want to reduce a bit of the overwhelm of you being able to achieve these goals and increase the likelihood of you being able to do that. So what I want you to do is I want to get you very clear on what is the number one goal professionally and the number one goal personally to focus on for this quarter, just this quarter. So just take a minute just to look down that list and put an asterisk around the number one goal personally and professionally for Q1. So we're going to get clear on your why behind those two goals now. Okay. So why those two goals? Don't answer me, but just reflect and write down, why did you pick those two goals? Why is it deeply important to you? And then when you've got your why is it deeply important to you, you all know the 7 whys. We're not going to go to 7, but why is that deeply important to you? Who would like to know why New Year's resolutions usually fail? And it's because people haven't integrated the habits that truly reshape who they are and how they operate in their subconscious, in their nervous system, and embedded at the core emotional level. And so let's say you say that you want to lose 20 pounds or 8 kilos for the Aussies. And that, everyone starts out with these weight loss goals. The challenge is that they don't embody the state of someone who is 20 pounds lighter. And you have to embody the state of someone who actually has achieved the goal. What do they eat? How do they exercise? How do they sleep? How do they show up, right, as a person? And so this true change requires you to embed these new habits of a person who's 20 pounds lighter deep into the subconscious so they feel as natural as breathing. It's just who they are when they show up. And this goes beyond knowing what to do, but it's actually about who you become. And when your habits are rooted at an emotional level, this is where they become this new default. And so the next question I've got for you guys is to think about, for those two goals, who do you need to be to achieve those goals? How does that person show up as if they've just achieved those goals? So I'm going to put on some thinking music just for another minute or two, and I want you to write that down. I want you to think about, who do you need to be to achieve those goals? But the next challenge, or the next part to this, is saying, okay, I know what I want to go for over the next quarter. That's clear for me. And I know how I'm going to show up to do that. But let's be real. There are going to be obstacles that come up. Okay. There are going to be things, whether it's time constraints, whether it's, you might be traveling, you might have people staying and they're big eaters, or they're going to take you away from, some of the things you being in your workshop, Nick. So the question is, I want you to draw, split your page in half, like draw a line down the middle to top to bottom. And on the left, I want you to list out what constraints can get in the way of you achieving those two goals. So maybe actually put it into a box of 4. So the top one might be a professional, the one below could be your personal goal. On the left is what constraints can get in the way. And then on the right is going to be, how do you fix those? Excellent. Makes a lot of sense. Good stuff. Now, there is a deeper question I'm going to ask you guys to think about now across those two goals. Is there any internal resistance to what you've put down? So the thing is that logically, they can all make sense. But there might be a deeper block emotionally that's getting in the way, and it's not going to allow you to achieve this goal. And I'll give you an example. One of my friends, he's a public figure. He is a heavy guy. He's about 130 kilos. So what's that? 280 pounds. And he knows he has to lose weight, and he goes in and out. His issue is that he actually kind of sees his identity a bit as the jolly fat guy. And he's worried about changing who his identity is if he loses that weight, and he's not the same person anymore. So until he deals with that, he is going to self-sabotage because his emotions are going to override his logic. And so the most important goal, sorry, this is the most important thing, okay? Because if you have got conflict with anything else that's going on, either in your life right now or internally, like a bit like what you were saying, Nick, it's going to be really difficult to achieve this goal, because if there is that conflict, your nervous system and your emotional layer is going to freak out, and there's going to be this self-sabotage. And honestly, you won't even see it coming. It'll be there. And so we need to be real here. So what I want to do is I just want to get you to close down your eyes for a second. I want you to take a couple of deep breaths, roll your shoulders, and I want you to think about a place that, or a memory that gives you great joy in that 15 seconds. Just step into that moment as if you're there. Feel the temperature. Is it warm? Is it cool? Is there a breeze blowing? Is there music around you? Laughter, waves crashing, or some other noises? Now put your right hand over your heart. Now I want you to pick your either your professional goal or your personal goal, you choose. And I want you just to imagine that you have achieved that goal. You've absolutely achieved that goal. And I want you just to feel if there's any resistance coming up as part of you achieving that goal. Just explore that just with curiosity. Is there any resistance in you achieving that goal? Bit of self-reflection. Just really see deep into that. And just ask yourself, what is that? If there is something, what's behind that? Just curious, just like you're listening to music, just with that level of curiosity and in and thinking and feeling. And now I want you to move to your next goal, the other one that we prioritized. And again, I want you to imagine that you've achieved that goal. And I want you to think about you being in a state where you've absolutely done what you said you were going to do. And is there any resistance around that? How are you feeling in your body having achieved that second goal? And what is it? Just look into it. What might that be? And then I want you to gently come back into the room, open your eyes. And I just want you to note down if there was any resistance on paper between either of those two goals and what it was. Okay. All right. Good stuff. So hopefully you've got a pretty clear sense of what that looks like in terms of steps moving forward. And then the last part is actually setting the deadline on when you want this to happen. So we picked Q1. Now what you do is you place that on your calendar to ensure it gets done. And I encourage you to shoot me an email and just tell me. Well, I know it's in the chat, actually. I can pick it up off that chat. But it takes courage to commit to doing something, because you're also saying, well, I'm going to put my time and effort into this, and I'm calling out what I'm going to do. We know it's going to lead to where you want to go, but that's courageous to back yourself to do that. But all of this is within all of you. I'm not looking here and seeing anyone saying they want to go to the moon in the next quarter. So these are all very achievable goals. And so having a deadline is important, but I also want to give you a slightly different perspective. And that is that one of the main sources of frustration is when we know that we want to go and do something, but we have an expectation that something's going to take a certain amount of time. And when we actually drop the expectation, it actually takes away a lot of the pressure and frustration. And that expectation is usually an arbitrary period anyway. Like, you think about things that you do. I mean, Danny, you're a good example maybe with the fourplex renovation, right? You've got a timeline in your mind around how long that thing's going to take. Ryan, you'll have a timeline around how long you think it's going to take before, excuse me, you're landing a promotion or another role. Nick, you'll be thinking, how long is it before you get recognized as being the CFO for doing arguably the same amount of work that you're doing right now, but you're just proving to these guys that you're ready. But if we drop the expectation around the timeline and you just focus on doing it, it becomes a lot less stressful and that frustration falls away. So we know what you guys want to focus on in Q1. And if it takes a little longer, or maybe it happens faster, either way, it's going to take how long it's going to take, provided that you're putting the effort into making it happen, right? And you're keeping it as a priority. I just don't want you to get into a state where you've got unreasonable demands on yourself, which is causing a high level of frustration over something that, there's an expectation there. And I'll give you a good example. I sold a property late last year, and I was expecting that to settle back in October. The buyer just kept pushing it out, pushing it out, pushing it out because he was struggling to get finance. It was a complicated transaction. And, there was nothing I could do. And I just had to wait. And I had no other offers on the table. And I just had to let it run its course. And by me sitting there getting frustrated was not actually going to help because it wasn't doing anything. It was just getting me riled up. So just bear that in mind as you think about expectations. And then the last thing I just want to share with you. Okay. So you'll all know this, but I do want to just take a minute just to quickly cycle through it, because if you really want to get clear on exactly what all of this looks like and take it to the next level, you build this into your personalized success formula. And you're looking at what are all the positive things around the know-how and the do-how that you're going to adopt that allow you to reach this goal. So you write your goal down here. What are the negative things I'm going to make sure I avoid, which is basically the stupid shit we do that impacts us at work, right? Lack of focus, procrastination, fear of speaking up, or whatever else can happen. What are the multipliers I'm going to build into this? What are the dividers I'm going to make sure I avoid? Which are the stupid shit we do that impacts many parts of our lives, not just the work front. And then in terms of luck, how am I going to position myself for luck to be able to achieve that goal? So in the case of Ryan, in the case of Danny, I'm going to make sure I'm showing up in the right way to move forward in a promotion and being ready when luck presents. That might be just being at the right place and the right time when it does. For example, I'm going to a networking event that leads to opportunities, because your network is going to be one of the key ways that you do actually identify job opportunities. So you're familiar with this model, but it's just another way to really think about how you can engineer your chance of success beyond what we've done today. And then if you want to take that and follow the formula even further, you get really specific on what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and when you're going to do it over the next breakdown. But I'll send these slides out after this call. Awesome, guys. I know we're at time. I hope that was helpful. I hope that was valuable. And you can apply this to whatever it is that you are doing. It doesn't need to be New Year's resolution stuff. This can be anything. But that's the framework, just stepping through each of those levels